We are back here now on the show to talk about the Cincinnati Bengals and another top five, top three wide receiver in the NFL, that being obviously Ja'Marr Chase. And on Ja'Marr Chase being one of the best receivers in the NFL currently, he has been since really he stepped foot in the NFL, right as he was drafted, much like his LSU teammate Justin Jefferson. As soon as both of them got into the NFL, they've been home run hitting draft picks ultimately, because you look at Ja'Marr Chase and what he's been able to produce for the Cincinnati Bengals, helping them make a Super Bowl, and the partnership that he has with Joe Burrow, being one of the more dangerous duos, just quarterback to wide receiver in general in the NFL. But you look more deeper into his first three seasons, he has reached 1,000 yards in each of his first three seasons, and since he's been drafted, he's been able to do that. And also just last year, when it was all pretty rambunctious and just not certain on where the season was going to go for the Cincinnati Bengals last year, you look at still what he was able to produce in 2023, over 1,200 yards, 7 touchdowns, and 100 receptions nonetheless, when Joe Burrow was in and out with injury, then ultimately being sidelined for the entire second half of the year with that wrist injury. Ja'Marr Chase still doing what Ja'Marr Chase does ultimately, producing like a wide receiver does, like a wide receiver one does, at an elite level. And that's why we get to this issue now where he's also looking for a contract. But you might compare it to Brandon Ayuk, CeeDee Lamb, but the main difference with Ja'Marr Chase and those two other guys are on their absolute final year of their deals. They're on their 5th years, technically, of their contracts, whereas Ja'Marr Chase is only just becoming eligible this offseason to get that extension. He is in no way, shape, or form trying to face a deadline with the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals don't really have to do it this offseason if they don't want to. This is just the first year that Ja'Marr could decide to approach them and try to figure something out, best case scenario, this offseason if they were to figure out an extension. But like I said, this is his first year of eligibility, but because of that, he is still in his rookie contract, and he is set to make about $1 million in base salary for 2024, and still, the Cincinnati Bengals still have that 5th-year option like Brandon Ayuk and CeeDee Lamb are on right now, where Ja'Marr Chase will earn around $21.8 million on that 5th-year option, which the Bengals have already exercised. So if they can't figure out something for the remainder of this offseason and even till next offseason, till the end of next offseason, Ja'Marr Chase is still going to technically be on that team because he's still contractually obligated to be there because of that 5th-year option. So the Bengals have nothing but time really on their side, but it becomes a little tricky now and a little bit just awkward, uncomfortable in a sense, because Ja'Marr Chase obviously doesn't want to play 2024 on a $1 million base salary. His talents obviously astronomically exceed that price tag for the Cincinnati Bengals. So he hasn't been practicing. He hasn't been practicing or taking part in the actual, hitting, the drills and whatnot in the Cincinnati Bengals practice. He's only been there, just present, just sitting on the sidelines, sort of holding in, if you would. And that's the situation he faces now. But head coach Zac Taylor mentioned that it's nothing that he is really taking too seriously, it seems like. He didn't say that, but just based on his comments, he says that they're taking it day by day, and they're just going to essentially wait it out, see if anything changes naturally, if Ja'Marr just decides to practice, because again, he is contractually obligated to play, or else he will be subject to fines, probably come the regular season. I don't know for certain if they're doing it right now. They might be sort of, just waving those away just because they know and understand what Ja'Marr's going through, wanting a long-term deal, but once the regular season starts, they're going to need him out there. And I don't think he'll hold out or anything like that because this is the only first year of eligibility. But regardless of that, it is not an ideal situation, not the perfect situation, obviously, because the Bengals will want him out there, will want him practicing, and just based also on the fact that their owner, Mike Brown, said that that they will do anything necessary to extend Ja'Marr Chase, but he also mentioned how it probably won't happen this offseason. It's likely to happen at some point, maybe in the coming offseason, or that they're going to revisit it next year at the earliest. So it's not you know, facing a good situation for Ja'Marr Chase to potentially get this done as soon as possible. And in all reality, the fact that Jamar's not there, you can kind of put up with that in a sense just because he is going to stay healthy, so that's a great thing. But you want him out there just because Joe Burrow's out there taking part in training camp. He was out there for the first time in forever in a preseason game, so you just want him out there to kind of get everything going, make sure everyone's on the right page. Unfortunately, you don't get to do that, but it's not too big of a concern that you think that it's going to affect Ja'Marr Chase and he's going to drop to like 800, 900 yards because he wasn't there during training camp. That's not really the issue. It's just the fact that it seems like it's kind of happening pretty early, and in reality, this could carry on for the rest of this offseason, the entire next offseason, and then once you get to the offseason, even after that, I'm pretty sure the Bengals still have technically a franchise tag option if they want to apply that to Ja'Marr Chase. So I don't think it'll get to that point, obviously, but that's the last resort that the Bengals and Ja'Marr Chase could get to. But if I'm Ja'Marr Chase, yeah, I'm holding in. I'm there at practice, but I'm not just taking part in it because I'm still confident that I could still go out there and produce. But the fact that he's holding in right now is a little confusing, and I wouldn't do it technically. I understand it, but I don't think I'd do that right now just because really if he waits a whole nother offseason, you'd probably expect to get CeeDee Lamb, that extension if you're the Cowboys. You expect Brandon Ayuk to sign a deal as well. So it could benefit Ja'Marr Chase ultimately to wait a whole nother offseason at the latest to potentially move that marker a little bit in terms of the wide receiver market. Maybe, I don't think it's crazy that CeeDee Lamb maybe resets the market. I don't think you can name another receiver right now that has the opportunity to do that. If anyone's going to do it, it's CeeDee. I don't think it's going to happen, but he is the one most likely to do it. And say he resets it by $1 million or $2 million, it gets 37 per year or something like that. It makes it a little bit better. It grows the pool a little bit more for Ja'Marr Chase for the next year. If he produces numbers like this, at least, which he seems to be doing already pretty easily, it's going to make it a better case for himself to get paid a little bit more. So that's why I really didn't understand too much why he was holding in right now. I can kind of see the logic behind it, but if I'm the Cincinnati Bengals, again, I don't really feel too much pressure trying to extend Ja'Marr Chase right now. Yeah, I want him practicing, but I'm not too stressed about it. He is in the final part of his deal, but it seems like Cincinnati is taking that approach already, knowing that time is on their side. So they're not really stressing too much looking into this situation right now. And really, this is a time for, if there was ever going to be a time for an owner like Jerry Jones to say there's no urgency, this would be the time to do it. This would be the perfect situation to say, there's no urgency to extend my best receiver, my elite wide receiver that I have on my roster. Not when he used it with CeeDee Lamb, but rather in this situation, knowing that you have at least 2 more off seasons to work something out. This is a perfect time to use that no urgency comment. But that's basically what the situation is for Ja'Marr Chase right now. He may end up, benefiting better because he waits another off season. You could see why he would want his money now. Paying Ja'Marr Chase, or if you're Ja'Marr Chase, earning a $1 million salary for all that you do for the Cincinnati Bengals is less than ideal, obviously, for Ja'Marr Chase, especially this year when you think about it and how important I would say for the entire team this is, because you look at the situation with T. Higgins, he's probably going to be on that last year of his deal. And he's probably going to move on after this because if they're going to pay Ja'Marr Chase, I don't think they'll afford or be able to afford T. Higgins on another $26 million salary per year. So it seems like this will be the last year for T. Higgins. They moved on from Joe Mixon, so they're going to need Ja'Marr out there. They're going to need him to perform. And with all of that writing on this year, you look at Ja'Marr and what he's making, it kind of makes you feel a certain way about, like, so much is being put into this season. If you're Ja'Marr Chase, you want to get, validated for, going the extra mile and contributing so much to this year because of how important it is. You still want to have Ja'Marr Chase be fully locked in. And I'm not saying he's not going to go out there and give 100%, but if this year is so important and Ja'Marr's only earning so little, it seems a little bit odd because of that. But again, the Cincinnati Bengals, if they're going to try and show any urgency, I don't think it'd be this offseason. They've mentioned how, important getting this extension is to Ja'Marr Chase and how important that is to them. In comparison to T. Higgins, you see what they say about T. Higgins. I brought it up a few weeks ago now where the owner, Mike Brown, I mentioned, said he would bend over backwards to extend Ja'Marr Chase, but when it came to T. Higgins, he said he gave a more extended answer, a more political answer, like, oh, like the pie is only so big. If someone's getting so much percentage of the cap space, we can't have everybody being paid at top of the market price. So very different to what he's saying in regards to Ja'Marr Chase. So that kind of leads you into believe that, yeah, it kind of stinks that you have to wait a whole nother offseason, but you're still in good favors with the organization. Ja'Marr is going to get paid. There's no way they'll even let him sniff the offseason after the next one. So it's going to take a little bit longer. Yeah, you're probably going to have to go out there and perform like this, but it could ultimately benefit Ja'Marr to the greatest benefit in getting an even larger contract if he goes absolutely crazy with Joe Burrow back. It seems like they only make it to AFC Championship games, so doing all of that this year only benefits Ja'Marr even more. And with this hold-in, wouldn't write too much into it. It is just something that Ja'Marr felt that he needed to do to preserve himself, probably best case scenario, but it isn't something anywhere close to what Brandon Ayuk or CeeDee Lamb or what the Cowboys are facing in their situations. Those are very different, and those guys are very much running out of time, especially the Cowboys, and figuring out what they're going to do about CeeDee and Dak Prescott as well. And not only that, mentioning that topic, but that is also going to be my next topic that I mentioned that we're going to get into after this break, talking about Micah Parsons and how he says he expects CeeDee Lamb to be there come week 1 when they're supposed to take on the Cleveland Browns. There's less than 3 weeks, I want to say exactly 24 days now, until the Cowboys play that week 1 matchup, and still no signs that an extension is close with CeeDee Lamb, but Micah Parsons is pretty confident, so I'm going to get into what he said, why I think it's going to be a little bit tough to get both him and Dak extended in 3 weeks' time, but stick around and find out more about that topic when we return after this break.
Looking